I really see it more than I'd like to see it, frankly, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I appreciate what you're doing, Jerome, because I'm trying to reach people before they reach that point of no return. 100% of business owners are going to leave their company one day. People who think about their business as an asset and not just a job is a pretty big thing. These are the people that do care about enterprise value. They do care about what kind of picture their total net worth pie looks like so that they can make decisions around this concept of what we call the freedom point. If you as a baby boomer are not yet talking about a transition plan or a succession plan in your business, guess what? Everyone else is asking the questions. They're just not asking you. Believe me, you guys should be doing a strategic plan, to grow the business, but I'll call that an operational plan.
There's a difference between a dream chaser and a dream catcher. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dream Catchers podcast. I'm your host, Jerome, and you're in for a treat today. I think there might be somebody who's a business Sherpa on with me today. And the use of the word Sherpa is just a fun word, right? I think many of us who have never climbed a mountain might not know what a Sherpa is, but you're going to find out what a business Sherpa is today. We've got Laurie Barkman in. Hey, Laurie, how are you?
Hey, I'm awesome. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, I mean, if you look at the profile on LinkedIn, it's kind of a no-brainer that you need to have Laurie on your show. So we reached out and she was kind enough to spend some time with us today. So, Laurie, I'd like to start the show by making a simple statement. So you had an exit and now you help people exit. And so what's a business Sherpa? Let's go there.
Yeah, Sherpa is this journey. We're all on a journey as entrepreneurs, and it's not easy. It's nice to have someone by your side who's been there before and can walk with you. We don't have all the answers, but we've got great tools and great gear. And in the context of building our business, right? You're not going to build your business on your own. Why would you transition your business on your own? So that's really where the idea of Sherpa comes from.
Well, a lot of founders think they did build their business on their own and that they have the answers. And my favorite thing is when folks think there's going to be a line around the building ready to buy their building when they're ready to exit. Is that what you're finding is the case when you're helping people with these transitions?
I think it's kind of the opposite. I think a lot of people just kick the can so far that by the time they quote unquote are ready to sell, the business is not sell ready. And the business faces a lot of challenges, either in terms of price and what they think they're going to get offered versus actual, or it doesn't come into the offers at all. And so many businesses in the lower middle market, like the stats are basically 2 out of 10 that have an intention to sell actually do. So let's just hit that for a second. That means 8 out of 10 do not. And so that's what I'm seeing for folks that are kind of late to the game to put the business on the market. They're just at a time to make any significant changes to optimize the business and work on, some of the risks and challenges that it's facing. And I see that a lot. I really see it more than I'd like to see it, frankly, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I appreciate what you're doing, Jerome, because I'm trying to reach people before they reach that point of no return.
Ooh. The point of no return, meaning that they're going to exit their business, but probably not the way they want to.
Exactly. I wrote a book, and it's called the Business Transition Handbook. And the very, very first thing I'm saying on that, on the cover, is 100% of business owners are going to leave their company one day, but very few are prepared. The statistic's like under 10%. So very, very few have a written plan that's communicated and not just in their head and swirling and weighing on them to make these big decisions. And so then they have no plan. And how many business owners do you know that fall into that camp? Probably a lot, right? And maybe there's some people listening that feel like that's them too. And there's probably good reason for that. There's probably good reason. I don't know who to turn to, or I don't know what I should work on, or I don't know what's going to make an impact. So I do nothing. Or there's lots of other reasons why people don't take action in these ways. But that's what inspired me to do what I'm doing, is try to help people. And I say a point of no return, it's exaggerating for a bit, but yeah, I mean, that's the point, is that 100% are going to leave one day, but are we really preparing for that? Are we intentional about it? Are we going to watch it happen to us or not happen to us and just let it not happen or happen? Or are we going to be intentional and try to make it happen?
So I love the 100% stat because it's absolutely accurate. And I liken it to estate planning. It's like, hey guys, I was doing a workshop in Sri Lanka a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, how many of you have an estate plan? And they were like, everybody raised their hand. I said, well, if you agree that 100% of business owners are going to exit and you don't have a succession plan, how would you label that person that doesn't have one? And under their breath, they said irresponsible. I was like, ooh. So if you don't have a plan and a person who doesn't have a plan is irresponsible, what are we going to do about that? And there were some people who might have got up and got mad, but I'm okay with that because now they're aware that they have a problem, even if they don't want to do anything about it. We often talk about people exiting one of three ways: they close it, they give it away, or they sell it. And everybody that I know who starts a business and thinks about selling their business when they're starting it, they think about that big old liquidity event and all of the great things that are going to happen. But I think what you're telling us is there's some preparation that has to happen in order for that event to happen. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe in the preparation. I believe in putting in the work to increase the value of your business so that your business is more enjoyable to run and more profitable and is not a beast of burden as you're running it. Why wait to renovate the bathroom when you're going to sell your house? Why not renovate the bathroom when you're still living in the house so you can enjoy it? And it's that same mindset that there are things that we can do to improve the value of our business. And why wait to do those things? If you think about value creation and the owner's metric, right? The owner's metric is not something that owners tend to think about, which is what's the value of your business? What is the value? What is the enterprise value of your business? So you could ask too, like you're asking about estate planning. I think it's a legitimate question to ask if our clients are investing, right? Or if they're investing their money in things like a 401k or stocks, or they're investing for the future. And then when it comes to their business, this most likely for many entrepreneurs, it is, 70 to 80% of their total net worth is in their business, but it's very illiquid. They can't just cash it out tomorrow, right? It's a private market. You can't just sell it. You can't just sell the stock like you can Yahoo stock or something like that. But here's the rub. Many people who own a business have no idea what their business is worth. And so we all know what gets measured gets improved. And if we're not baselining the value of our business and we're not setting goals to improve it, then what happens? We just kind of go on that treadmill of trial and error, initiatives that fail, and we're not getting an ROI and we're frustrated and we can't take a vacation and we're not running a business that makes us, fulfilled. And we worry about the future. We don't know if eventually, if we're going to sell this thing, if it's going to satisfy the requirements we have to live the lifestyle we want to live outside the business. And so for many owners, then it's a kicking the can situation. They just don't make any decisions whatsoever. They're not working proactively. Again, they're waiting for things to happen to them.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what you're describing is kind of like a death loop, right? I mean, it's just kind of spirals, and if they don't actually do something to prepare it, then they're going to close it because if the business isn't sellable or what we call exit ready, people aren't going to buy it unless they're just buying the assets, and that doesn't work out well. I find that a lot of founders don't have some type of retirement account, and so the liquidity event is a very important uh, piece of the journey because it's the way that they retire and potentially pass things on to their descendants. Uh, what are you finding are kind of the non-negotiables for founders who are getting exit ready?
Well, I should probably also share my perspective comes from a couple of different angles, right? One is from being an operator, running a business, going through an exit as a not a business owner, but somebody who was on the executive team and was very close to the transaction. Someone after that became, right? How did I become the business transition Sherpa? Focusing on exit transition planning and working with owners prior to, right, in this readiness state. And then this third piece of how I look at things is from the angle as a buyer would. And that's because I'm a certified mergers and acquisitions advisor, and I'm bringing that outside in view. So to answer your question, I wanted just to lay that groundwork because I think it's really important if people are thinking about the potential of a retirement nest egg coming from their business and day one have that in mind. They're probably going to set their course a little bit differently. They might be thinking about their exit day one as opposed to, 10, 20, 30 years down the road or never. The people who think about their business as an asset and not just a job, is a pretty big thing. These are the people that do care about enterprise value. They do care about what kind of picture their total net worth pie looks like so that they can make decisions around this concept of what we call the freedom point. And the freedom point is about risk on versus kind of this. It's a term you might hear with your financial advisor. Are you risk on? Which means if your money stays longer in that position of where you have it, you're kind of in the green, like you're looking in a good situation. However, you stand to lose a lot, right? If market dynamics or other dynamics shift and it's out of your control. And so that really speaks to timing. Is It's hard to time the market, right? We all know that if we're trying to sell a stock, it's just really hard to kind of pick that right time. So when we're thinking about when is the right time to sell, how much money do I need to exit with so that I can live this life that I want to live out, and so part of it is how long do I expect to live? How do I expect to live, right? What's kind of that expenses? And if people are working with a financial advisor, they may have had these types of conversations, which is really, really good. If they don't have a financial advisor or they don't have somebody that they've trusted with this information, we offer some tools, and I'm sure you do as well, to just sort of look at it and say, wow, what's the value of my business today? What's the baseline? What could it be with effort and growth and initiatives that are going to yield an ROI? What kind of and quantify the impact that it could have on the business and make a decision if that's something that you want to do. For a lot of owners, they don't want to do that. They're kind of setting their course. It is what it is, and they're going to leave the business. The other way to say what I said earlier in terms of 100% leaving is owners are going to leave horizontally or vertically, and they are going to make that choice. There are so many owners out there that are like, I am never leaving. This is what I do. I love what I do. And even if they love it or hate it, but this is what they do. And they're not leaving. And it's their absolute choice to do that. There was one woman I met, I won't mention the company, but it was a pretty big travel company, travel agency, very high end corporate client work. And right before COVID, there were some changes in the ownership structure. The mother had it all. The mother's name was on the door. The daughters somehow, I don't know all the details, the two daughters got 51% control. And they said to their mom, we are selling this business. Now, the women had the foresight to do that before COVID hit. Mind you, this is a travel company. The mom, even after the sale, which happened before COVID, and because they were.
Hey guys, as you might know, a very small percentage of the people who actually listen to this podcast are subscribers. So do us a favor, subscribe. In fact, we did some analytics and we found out that only 25% of the people who listen are subscribers. And our goal is to get that to about 75% over the next 3 months. So do us a favor, hit the subscribe button so you get notified when our new episodes come. We plan to bring immense value to you guys going forward as we continue to improve the content that we create at Dreamcatcher. Your dreams should be real. Let's get back to the show.
Secure financially after that transaction, right? Even though the rest of the world was falling apart, they had the money in the bank. The mom in her 80s still said, I would never have sold that business. I can't believe you guys went through this, and was still to this day upset that the daughter sold the business, even though financially it was the right thing for them. It set their family on a course for generational wealth. But yet the mom was just digging in her heels. So there will be people like that, Jerome, that just believe that this company should not leave their control.
What do you think the reason is that they're holding on so tight?
There's probably lots of reasons. I think sometimes it's because their name is on the door. If they are the founder, there's an emotional attachment to your baby, right? How many times have we heard business owners refer to the company as their baby? Other times, the name on the door is about pride and legacy. because it's a next gen company, whether it's second gen, third gen, et cetera. And nobody wants to be the one that says, I messed it up. Maybe I sold, maybe if we're messing it up, it looks like we're messing it up, or our value is not where we want it to be. It's not staying in the company, in the family. And we're the generation that sells it. Are we going to be labeled, a pariah on the family? Who knows? It's fear ultimately. I think when it boils down to is the fear of the unknown, of letting go. What am I going to do? Right? That whiffum, what's in it for me? What's in it for me financially? What am I going to be losing out on from how I feel about myself or how I spend my time? Right? It's that whiffum that comes back to you and how you feel about it. For people that have stakeholders who I'll describe as other shareholders, community members, employees, vendors, suppliers, customers, these stakeholders care about your business too. And here's the hard truth for a lot of owners as they reach a point in time that we call baby boomer, the baby boomer stage. If you as a baby boomer are not yet talking about a transition plan or a succession plan in your business, guess what? Everyone else is asking the questions. They're just not asking you. And so that's a slippery slope too, because eventually they're going to say, employees are going to go, oh, I don't know what the future of this company is. I'm going to leave. I'm going to make other choices. Customers might make that same assumption, like, oh, well, who knows what's going to happen to Joe or Jane. I'm out of here. I want to make sure that our relationships are secure for the future. So it's this doubt that can also be eating away at the value of your business unintentionally you're unaware of it.
Wow. Wow. So, hmm, you talked about the fear. How do you help them overcome that and actually make the transition to being what we call a neo, a newly exited operator?
I think that everybody's got their different stage of their journey, right? I think there's the kind of the deniers that are never going to work with somebody like me or you, right? They're just not. I'm hoping that people pick up my podcast, they pick up your podcast, they read my book, and maybe they take a course, right? Maybe it's my course or another course, and it just gets them thinking. So the sooner we can reach entrepreneurs on their journey, the better. But for the people that are, like the woman that I described that's digging in her heels, and I'm never going to convince her, and that's okay. So I'm trying to focus on the middle. And if we say generationally, who are they? They're the millennials and they're the Gen Xers, where they are building, they're in the business. I'm trying to help them understand what will enable them to optimize the business as they're continuing forward so that they can create exit options in the future and create that intention for a successful transition and make it happen. And so I think that's the biggest difference, right? If we can reach them while they're in the seat, right? While they're in an influential position in the business, they'll set the course. Right? For example, you might be implementing things like EOS in your company or other things that are going to help you build and scale, which is fantastic. But what is that going to ultimately do for your business? If you go into that thinking, hey, there's probably a payback on this, and you're kind of betting on the come, so to speak, from a gambling perspective, awesome, right? But wouldn't it be pretty powerful to combine that with a strategic transition planning that we do at a company level? So when we're looking at growth, we're not just looking at it as the operational alignment pieces, which I don't mean to kind of put it down, but I'm going to call those tactical. I'm really talking strategic, which is what is the value of your business? How are you going to take it to the next level? There's two angles on growth. One is organic and one is inorganic, which is otherwise known as acquisitive growth, where we're going to acquire other businesses. And you and your management team, believe me, you guys should be doing a strategic plan, to grow the business, but I'll call that an operational plan. And it's very atypical for, a management team, especially if they're not in an experienced management team, to say, hey, we're going to suggest to the business owner and CEO that we're going to acquire a business. That typically doesn't happen bottom up. That typically is more of a top down. And so that's the angle that I'm coming at, is we're looking at the business from like a 30,000-foot view, enabling the business owners to step away in the sense that we're going to look at that business from an outside in perspective. We might say your baby's ugly. We just might. And that information when you have time to act on it and you have time to make changes in your business, it's a good thing. Like you should look at it as a gift.
Oh, so that new vantage point or that outside observer, uh, they can shed light on things that you weren't paying attention to and help you see your blind spots. But I think it can also be challenging for the business owner who hasn't traditionally invested in some type of consultant or coach to come in and offer that perspective. I think trusting somebody who's telling them or looking at it differently than they've been looking at it is a bit challenging. Is there any advice for somebody out there who, they're a self-educator, I'm a touch the stove to make sure it's hot. Trust but verify type person. Is there any guidance for them or words of wisdom from your journey?
Yeah, I think people learn in different ways. They also trust in different ways. And sometimes it's 10 licks to get to the center of the lollipop, if we all remember that Tootsie Roll commercial. Um, and so it's not just the one thing, I think it's a number of things. And it's the people we're talking to, other business owners that have made mistakes and they have regrets. There's two camps on regret, right? There's the regrets. We regret the things we did. We regret the things we didn't do. And
Mm.
I'm talking to people all the time that are in one or both of those camps. Um, I think for people that, are exploring and trying to figure out what big questions are on their mind, typically they're starting out with, um, I feel really tethered in my business. I don't have the right people in the right seats. I'm not sure I'm on this treadmill of spending on initiatives that I don't feel like I'm getting the ROI, and I don't feel like we're advancing where I need us to advance. So that's oftentimes where we start and help people kind of in that freedom finder, perspective of what do we need to be doing, and then measuring and setting some goals around where's your business today, where should it be, and where should you be investing. The next level up from there is understanding the value multiplier and again, reinvesting in areas where you're going to reduce risk, increase transferability, increase the attractiveness of your company, and holding yourselves accountable to that. Um, Beyond that, there's lots of other things that we also, can work on. But you said it earlier, Jerome. I mean, I think people have to be open-minded to learning the things they don't know yet. If someone has all the answers, they're not going to be coachable. They're not going to be in my master class. They're not going to be in my group advisory or my private client or whatever. They're going to just kind of do what they're doing. And those are the can kickers. And I want to help the can kickers. I really do. But, at some point it's too late for them. And that's like the 80-year-old person I talked about, which is why it's so important. People in their 40s, 50s, 60s, if they're hearing us and they're thinking, wait a minute, I'm 5 to 7 years out from a transition. I want to make changes. I want to be impactful. Set that intention. Those are the people I think you and I can really help.
Yeah. It's always interesting. It's like, oh yeah, talk to me at the end of 2026. I was like, well, how do you know what's going to be going on at the end of 2026? And if it's good for your business in 2026, it might be good for your business now. But they don't want to hear that. And it's almost as if exit's a dirty word or retirement's a dirty word. Are you seeing that with some of the folks that you encounter?
My podcast is called Succession Stories. And so, by the nature, if you listen to the show, you kind of know what you're going to get, right? These are stories about people who have either sold their business or maybe bought a business. And so, either way, there's sort of buyer seller on the other side of that equation. And I also talk to a lot of people who are like you and me, right? We're trying to educate and bring people into the fold and help them in some way. And I actually reached the point with my interviews now that I've sort of put it out there that look, retirement should not be a taboo word. Exit is not a word that I like to front end with. I say transition for a reason. I say that because it's a movement, right? It's a movement from here to there, whereas exit feels pretty finite. Now I do say it, and of course it's part of my lexicon and it's part of what we do, but it is that finite moment. Um, it's one of those things where people have to find the right time for them. And there's like so many times in our lives where you're like, how do I really know? If we don't talk about it, if we don't process it can feel taboo, but it shouldn't. It really shouldn't. It should be that conversation about I had a guest on my show who announced to his team and his customers and his suppliers that he's retiring in 3 years. And we talked about it. We talked about it on air. And I said, good for you. You know, why should this be a taboo topic? Why is it that we can't talk about retirement? Maybe some people feel like they're going to be labeled a short timer, but you know what? You're the owner. So you demand that respect. People can't rule you out until you say so. So I don't know that, I understand the fear. I do, but I think there's obstacles we can overcome with it.
Yeah. So I guess the final main question I want to ask, because I think we'll probably spend a little bit of time here, is how does a business know when it's exit ready, or uh, as whatever the final state is for your process and your vernacular?
We do a lot of work to help them get exit ready, and it takes a while. I call it a marathon, not a sprint. It's the tortoise that's going to win, not necessarily the rabbit. And that's because there's so many pieces. And once we uncover one piece and puzzle, we have to change something else. There's a lot of dots that need to connect. And my process takes a while. I don't rush this for a reason. And one, business owners don't have time to do it all at once. You just can't. And also we need other professionals in the room. We might need a lawyer. We might need a fiduciary financial advisor. We might need a tax advisor, an estate planner, right? There's lots of other people who might help us on our business owner advisory team. So for that reason, the process that I put together and the process that I lead is intended for, you know, I'll say a year. It could take longer. So if someone's going through this process, we got to see where they are, where are they starting from and where are they ending. If you want to lose weight and you already look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, well, that's going to be a pretty different path than if you're my 600-pound life and you want to lose weight, right? So the path we're going to take is different based on where we start. It also is going to vary based on when we think we're going to end. So if someone's saying to me, hey, Laurie, I have an intention to sell next year. I just want to kind of put a little bit of lipstick on this pig. They're not going to say that, but you know what I mean. They say, we have this amount of time. This is what I can do. I've got some people knocking on my door, but I'm not quite ready to approach them. Then the sell ready state is defined by the owner saying, I'm really ready to punch out. I've had some nibbles, people approaching me. That's one scenario. Another scenario would be, yeah, I mean, I'm intending to sell my business in 5 to 7 years, and I want to be ready because people are starting to knock on my door as well. I don't respond to any of them. I don't know how to respond. My financials are not quite where I need to be. They're not as organized as I want them to be. They don't have the story laid out in terms of who the best fit buyer is for them. They don't have an understanding of what their value might be and what that storytelling needs to look like in the marketplace. Who is the best fit for them as a buyer? Um, for that reason, I'm giving you all kinds of reasons why the answer is it depends. How do we really know when a business is sell ready? The real answer is going to be when the buyers tell you that they want to buy your business.
And you don't have much control over that. I mean, you can get all pretty and dressed up and ready to go to the dance, but if nobody comes to pick you up to go to the dance, well, you're just all dressed up with nowhere to go.
Well, here's a very interesting reality, right? I have so many clients now on the M&A side that we work with what we call in a facilitation capacity. And the difference is, did I find the buyer or did they? Now, in these examples that I've been kind of sharing here, where people are saying, I'm getting nibbles, people are approaching me. If you have a really well-run business that's very attractive, then buyers are going to come sniffing around. And in that example, that's exactly the point, is that you can decide when to sell. You can hopefully, drive the process a bit if you want to, kind of get more buyers to the table or engage with a couple of buyers that you're familiar with. Um, isn't that powerful, right? Isn't that a powerful situation to be in?
Yeah, and it's really taking control of what's happening instead of letting it happen to you. And I think that's the brilliance of it. I think out of planning or preparation is worth more than a pound of reaction on the backside of the situation happening. And most of that stuff's completely preventable. Laurie, your approach is refreshing. I think most people want to just beat their chest and talk about maxing the valuation. You didn't talk about that at all today. You talked about strategy and taking the right steps and getting ready, and there being a process and people understanding that they're going, like, this isn't snap your fingers and it's done. This isn't, wham bam, thank you, ma'am, 30 days in and out. This is a journey. And I like your use of the word marathon because I think people end up in deal fatigue because they think it's going to be quick. I was chatting with a fella yesterday and he was like, yeah, we tell people 6 months. I was like, how do you get them out of their business in 6 months? Like, there's just so much there. He's like, yeah, it usually ends up being more like 9, but it's really difficult to sell people on a process that is that long. And so I think that I appreciate more than anything your authenticity and your transparency because that is what people need from their most trusted advisor. If only 2 out of 10 sell, and I think less than 3 of those 2 that sell, if you take 10 of the 2 that sell, only 3 of those like actually are happy with what happened when they sold. You're getting pretty rare air for exiting to excellence. And I don't think you get there by being deceived by your advisors or, having folks on your team who are looking and thinking and trying to figure out how to get you to transact, even if it's potentially not the best thing for you. And so, one of the things we like to do is really scour the country and find those folks who are doing things in a way that we feel is full of integrity. And so, what you've described here today is absolutely one of those. You're one of those people, and grateful that you're in the space because if 80% of a person's net worth is tied up in a business and they get to this place of having a liquidity event, you want to make sure that you got the right folks on your team.
Absolutely. And thank you. Thank you for what you just shared with me. I feel like I'm a bit of a contrarian to say, look, this is going to take a while, but people will see courses out there like 90 days, pay this little bit amount and it's fine. I believe that you got to put in the sweat equity, just like you're building your business. You got to put in that time to really focus. And so why not do it with some real data in mind also, and not just guessing.
Yeah. We're running a business. We shouldn't guess. There's plenty of data out there that helps support what we're doing. It's not like we're the first ones into the wilderness. This is not the wild wild west, even though some people want it to be so that it's a little more exciting. Boring businesses actually get the best valuations because of the predictability and the stability. And that is what you want when it's time to go sell. So, Laurie, thank you again for sharing your wisdom with us. I would say the listeners, but you shared it with me too. And so I'm really grateful for that.
Oh, Jerome, thank you. I really appreciate you. And I would love to invite you onto my podcast, the Succession Stories podcast.
Man, succession stories. This is a word that I don't think a whole lot of people spend time talking about. I would love to do that. And we'll have to get some of the listeners over there to check your podcast out
Yeah,
because I know
absolutely.
podcast
We'll have a lot of
listeners.
fun flipping the mic over on you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. All right. So, to the listeners, your dreams should be real. We'll catch you on the next episode.